Good morning and welcome to the KOKOLIRIKO live edition for this week. And my name is Farish Majid. I want to take this opportunity now to welcome you on board from wherever you are joining us and catching us from this early morning as we begin off your day with what continues to make rounds in the different spaces, also really in the different papers and also really in the different media for us in there. And that's why we're here. To keep you in the know and updated of what continues to happen in and around your society. And remember, the country is still mourning, where yesterday we did see also the death toll said to be rising at 25, and the efforts to also rescue for more bodies and also really maybe identify for more victims is still ongoing. And yesterday we did see also really many people still being recovered. That means the efforts are still underway, and that means we should be also now doing whatever it takes to make sure that we pray for those who are still trapped underneath the garbage that is in Chitezi landfill, also to have also them in our prayers, because there are people who may still be alive in there, but really we are still seeing that. And we shall be also keeping you informed of what happens in there. Later on, I will be also discussing that with you, and I hope also we keep it up to 9 o'clock. And at 9 o'clock remains our final destination, by the way, and that's when we are going to be jumping out of the show and also letting you know also what continues to happen in the world of news. And that is for the Lubara speakers in there, where Fete Manuel will be coming through also with the news bulletin Liberty, and thereafter we shall be having what we call the Northern Request Hour. And I must say always, if you're somebody who is proud of being a northerner from West Nile in Acholi, in Karamoja, and I want to say that is where we shall be playing for that music of the Lur land, the music of Madi land, the music of Kakwa land, the music of Lango, the music of Acholi, the music of the Karamajongs, all that plays on the Northern Request Hour. That is together, that is with Olivia UG, together with DJ Jero, who will be here also to let you know of that. That will be coming from 10 to midday, and then thereafter we shall be having at the Lembangea news bulletin, that is for the Luru speakers, and that will also be catering for them in there. That is where Fancy will be coming through, and afterwards we shall be having many other programs, not forgetting the Street Talk, the Wishu Time, that will be also giving you insights in what continues to make rounds in the world of sports, and that update also will be coming from 2 to 3 p.m. as Owen Zaga together with Linda Suzy will be here, and thereafter we shall be having what we call the Movie Time, that will be starting from 3 to 5 p.m. that will be ushering us into Chukuchuku. That will be starting from 5 up to 7 p.m. Then a Nilecast news bulletin will be coming through in there. And that is how our programs for the day will be running. And I hope also you, as the ardent viewer of the TV, you must also now be knowing the program and what exactly these programs mean. And I mean, all these programs are there to keep you first of informed, and that's why we're here. The KOKOLIRIKO live show is to make sure you do that. And then in the news bulletins are also there to do that. And then entertainment, we have so many also programs to keep you entertained in there. And that is also where we inform you about what continues to make rounds socially and around your society. And it's always very much important for you to also be in the know of what continues to make rounds within your areas in there. And that is where now we want to begin off the discussions in Chitezi landfill, where emotions run high as rescue efforts continue. That's at Chitezi landfill now. That is also really where we are seeing each day Chitezi landfill, the Wakiso district, is a beehive of activities, where garbage from the entire Wakiso district and also the parts of the entire Kampala also is being dumped in there. That means the place has been also containing a lot of garbage. Many places had actually been used for dumping this garbage. And now what continues to happen around, and recently we did see also the garbage causing havoc in there, where also we did see houses being broken by the garbage. That is how we lost many lives. And by yesterday we did see also the death toll said to be rising to about 25, and that means definitely that is something where we did see hundreds of people gathered. That is around also the place where the garbage accident happened, and to see how possible they can be able to rescue other colleagues who remained underneath. And they kept on calling for rescue in there. Others died in the process, because the rescue mission also really took some time also in there, where we did see now others losing their lives due to suffocation and also the other injuries in there. But really we continue to pray for the souls also really of those people to also rest in the eternal peace. And remember, the president recently directed that the families who also died in there should be given at least some 5 million, and then those who got injured should be given 1 million each in there. That was a directive also from the president in there. That is also really to enable them and also really maybe have relief during these trial moments in there. And that is one thing also we did see. And remember, warnings also really had been given prior to this effect, and that is where we are saying, if at all governments also will come out and tell you that this place you are residing in is not safe, we should always listen to such cries and leave the places, because what we did see in Stesi, really, it was to my dismay, because we were able to sort of lose innocent people in there and innocent souls just by the garbage also that was coming from that dumping site, where it was able to sort of kill a number of people. And that is something where I really feel it is a pain, and it's really indeed a pain for the country to undergo such a scenario in there. Now, hundreds of people gathered and to see what was happening, and only one of the executive operators said he had dug for hours but wasn't able to find a survivor or to retrieve a body in there. That is one thing also we did see, and really many houses, as also really of the accident, were broken down. That means the garbage had piled a lot. But really, with this rain, I believe burning the garbage had actually become a challenge also, and that is where we are saying we must always be, first of all, alert, on the alert also of what is happening in our areas. It may not be garbage to kill us, it may be any other disaster. And that is one reason also we are saying we must always listen to the concerns and the pleas also of the responsible stakeholders. Why am I saying this? Recently, the Lord Mayor Arias Lukwago had actually visited the place and issued a warning that this place was also really a prone to disaster, and anytime it may also really cause havoc. And yes, indeed, after a few weeks, we are seeing that also really happening. That means we have to do something about our lives. We must avoid also these tendencies of not listening to, because sometimes we see the people saying, this is our ancestral land. This was the land that belonged to my grandfather. Where am I going to go? We are saying no. Listen, you need to also really avoid. Life is better. Life is actually precious. You can also really still buy land, but you can never buy life. And that is where we are saying government also really must come out to explain to these people that the disasters can happen anytime. And they should therefore sort of listen to the plight of the people who give them the warnings, so that already would not have more lives being lost in such encounters in there. Now, the same incident, what does it mean? I want to say it's the same scenario also really could happen in areas elsewhere garbage is being dumped. And now in Kumba, the residents have also rejected also the garbage trucks from passing the area. That is something also which we are following. And now the residents and leaders of Kumba, Bukorwa, and Katabi Town Council, Kisa District have expressed dismay after several garbage trucks, including some belong to KCA, and that's the Capital City Authority, dumped rubbish also really at the nearby 14-acre landfill, which borders a protected wetland in there. That is something also really where now the same cry has now also really extended, that is to the neighboring areas who have also really been on the alert now. And now the uproar which comes days after landfill at Kitezi killed people, also really that is in Kasanga Town Council, also in Wakiso District, also really killed at least dozens also really people, and left several injured in there. That means these people now feel before they allow the garbage to continue to be dumped in their area, then the KCA needs to come out and also really address certain issues here and there. That would also not enable them also really undergo the same scenario like those of Chitezi in there. That is something also now we are seeing the residents of also Katabi, that's in Kumba, also really now rejecting the garbage trucks belonging to KCA that dump garbage solely from accessing the area in there. Now what does that mean? It means that garbage that is heavily generated from the city center may now lack where to go to, and that means I want to also really encourage people now to also really avoid dumping this garbage. If at all the garbage is bannable, why don't we ban the garbage? And that is how quite simple it is. Let's find also the alternatives. Also, we are banning this garbage other than resorting to giving it to these garbage companies that also really, at the end of the day, find it very, very much difficult to take it the garbage side. And today we have so many garbage companies in Kampala. All their duty is to collect the garbage. And where they take this garbage to, it is to these dumping sites. And that is where at the end of the day, we find it very much challenging when such havocs happen. And really you move to these garbage sites, you find sometimes the place is heavily piled. And recently Arua City actually choked off garbage, where we did see garbage being dumped in the city centers, in the streets. And many people actually came out and also raised their concern over this also the status of garbage dumping in the city, with many complaining of pollution from air and also really from and also really from other sites. Because if you really see what happens of garbage, sometimes it becomes very much bad for you to see garbage, and that was also really very much bad for them. But we are saying it was because of the challenge at the dumping site. And how should the local governments, not only Kampala City now, also really deal with the issue of garbage? That is where the focus needs to be put at. Because recently I was interacting with one of the former mayors of the municipality, he was able to also express to me that the garbage management is actually one of those difficult tasks the local governments can actually undertake, because each and every day people are generating heavy tons of garbage, and where does that garbage go to? It deserves to be taken to a safe place, and that's how, if at all these people do not respect that, that's where we see tendencies of also the people dumping garbage anyhowly, where we see filth also of garbage. All that also is the challenge of garbage. But how do we make sure that the garbage that we generate does not turn out to be a disaster? Because many times we also see this garbage actually posing a lot of opportunities, where today there are people who earn simply from the garbage by collecting the plastic bottles and also the other garbage, also plastic materials from this garbage, and all they do is to sell, and that's only where we see them also recycling. And sometimes also the decomposable garbage is all turned into manure, and that is a benefit of also from this garbage also in there. But how do we make sure that the negatives that come from this incident does not happen? Because recently what happened in Matuga, in Wakiso, that's in Chitezi, raised alarm. Many people are now living in fear, more so those who live along areas where garbage is being dumped, because many feel the same may also happen to them. But we are saying the local governments must ensure the process of, first of all, paying these workers, because sometimes it's supposed to leave the garbage. I do understand that it is because their monies are not being paid. Through an interaction with also those from our district, we realize that also where the garbage is being dumped, that's in the water, many of them had actually complained of poor working environment. They did not have the gloves, with others complaining of poor payment, others complaining of long-term payments. All that also contributes to the collection and heavy pile of garbage, which at the end of the day I feel causes such havoc, because people are not going to be working efficiently. That means, if at all I'm not being paid well, I'm not going to be delivering efficiently, and that is how exactly what continues to happen in the garbage dumping sites could be happening. Because people, first of all, if a person was to be working harder, then with these issues of also the unfair working environment here and there, the person pulls back and does what is just simply to do, and at the end of the day we see the garbage piling very much heavy, and which results into what we call such accidents. And how can we avoid such accidents which are avoidable? That is where we need to turn our focus to, and that's where the local governments now need to learn a lesson from. And all these local governments should pick at least a lesson from what happened from Chitezi, because we don't want to see lives of innocent Ugandans lost in the hands of garbage or such accidents that are avoidable. And that's where we're saying local governments now should pick at least a lesson or two from what happened from Chitezi and let them build on, and that would also at the end of the day make sure that we avoid such incidences. And that is where we did see Mr. Joan Athieno, who has lived her entire life in Nkumba, express concern over the increase in also in the number of garbage trucks heading towards also the landfill. That means the garbage that is being generated from the city center is actually on the increase. What does that mean? It means that the population has increased. First of all, now the generated ton of garbage has increased. That means people should find alternatives of how best they can be able to decompose, also maybe dispose of this garbage. Because if at all you not dispose this garbage properly, that would also cause other diseases, for instance cholera and others out there which may be very, very much bad. And we are saying we must live together with the garbage, because we cannot run away from garbage. But how do we live with the garbage without necessarily causing for us problems? That's where the focus needs to be to, because if at all we not give that focus, then at the end of the day, that is how it is going to be challenging. And now KCC spokesperson Daniel Nwabine is here to respond to related questions for comment after also many people asking him on the same issue. And Mr. Mwesije Julius, a resident that is of Nkumba and conservation educator at Uganda Wildlife Education Center, said residents are worried about a sudden increase in the garbage being dumped in the neighborhood in there, and that is where the landfill is. That means many of them are now living in fear because of what happened in Chitezi. And I want to say this to government: many people are now living in fear because of these issues of garbage. And Mr. Fabrice Rulinda, the Entebbe municipality mayor, said there is no agreement with KCA to use the Nkumba Bukole landfill even temporarily, and that means this is happening illegally. And what is KCA saying? That is where we expect them to also respond to. And that is one thing also at the end of the day I feel we need to talk about, because if I we not talk about it, then definitely it will be very much bad for us to also really continue lamenting on these things and on these issues, which may also not yield any fruits. And that means we need to do something. When I talk about we, it means me and you have to continuously educate the masses about issues of garbage. That means if at all we have garbage, we cannot run away from garbage, that is a fact. But how do we dispose of this garbage is where our focus needs to be to, and that's where we now need to call on families to ensure that garbage that is being generated from their places can, first of all, maybe be sorted fast. Because if at all it is decomposable, why don't we sort it first? And if at all it's non-decomposable, why don't we put also really aside, maybe in different caveras or different also polythene bags in there? That would also make the work of the people at dumping site very much easier, because that is where the challenge also really resulting into the heavy piles of garbage in there could be resulting from. Because they look at with the weather, many of these people are not going to be working efficiently, because these are human beings when it rains. Definitely that is also going to be affecting the garbage being also banked in there. And that means we need to do something and support the government also in terms of making the work of government easier in there. That is where we're going to be leaving that story aside. Now let's look at what continues to happen also with Uganda Human Rights Commission, where we did see them launching the maiden tribunal session that is in Kigezi sub-region. And I really want to say anytime we also want to see them in Arua. Today we have many people who are seeking for the help of Uganda Human Rights Commission, and many of them can hardly also really access justice in there. That is where we are saying that would also be the only place for them to access justice in there, and that means we need to do something also of supporting now Uganda Human Rights Commission, where we did see them launching their maiden tribunal session, also the first also ever tribunal session that's in Kigezi sub-region, bringing relief also to stakeholders in the area. And that's something also we did see, where the week-long tribunal is being held at the Commission's regional offices. That's at Makanga Hill, that is in Kabale municipality in there, that is for the Kigezi sub-region. And that is one thing also where we are going to be seeing people getting justice, where we are going to be seeing cases that had initially not been heard in the courts of law now be heard, that is before the tribunal in there. That's where justice also really will be prevailing, and that is one thing also which I want to appreciate Uganda Human Rights Commission for. And now the session is being presided over by Commission Chairperson Maria Mwangadia, along with commissioners, that is Crispine Kaheru, Colonel retired, and we did see also Stephen Basaliza and Lamex Omara Apita, among also the other people also who are presiding over this in there. And now speaking to the media before the session, Ida Nachiganda, the Director of Complaints, Investigation and Legal Complaints at Uganda Human Rights Commission, also announced that the tribunal will handle 13 cases already in there. And one of the 4 cases had been previously partially heard, that is in Barara Regional Office. And now the commission is set to deliver a decision in one of the 4 cases, while remaining 3 see the Uganda Wildlife Authority present its defense in there. That means we are going to be following up on that matter. And now the remaining 9 cases are now new complaints, making their first also appearance at the tribunal, with the Attorney General also already office defendants. But all in all, these cases already are going to be heard in there. Now, Kabale Regional Office currently is headed by one Teopisa Twembi, is also already hosting the tribunal. Twembi welcomed the tribunal as a significant step, that is for their new office in there. Stakeholders have expressed optimism that also already the establishment of human rights tribunal in the region also already will bring justice closer to the people, and that is one thing also really we need to also really understand. And for the new for the Uganda Human Rights Commission tribunal to convene, it requires also the presence of the chairperson and at least also the 3 members of the commission in there. Now the Uganda Human Rights Commission holds powers that is also really of a court under, that is 53 subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda as amended, which includes the authority to question individuals and demand information also really in relation to its investigations. And that's where we also really saying, if at all they come to you, it is also really very much important for you to open up, other than also really hiding information here and there, because sometimes people find it very difficult to open up and also give information in there. Yet this information would actually be very much needed, and that's also in relation to also addressing those issues in there. And if the commission finds the human rights violations have occurred, it can offer remedies and also including orders of the commission. Now the tribunal are set, therefore it's essential also the exercise of these constitutional powers to ensure justice is served. And that is one thing also where we really need this commission in Arua City, because we have many people who have also undergone a lot of trauma and a lot of also human rights violations where they have never been compensated. And one of these is a young boy in Arua Primary that was shot by flying squad. And that is one thing also really where I feel if the tribunal takes it upon also to respond to these queries of this young boy that was left with one leg, and also the other leg also being shattered in there, That means this boy has now to put on what we call artificial leg, and that is where at the end of the day he feels he never got the justice that he deserves, and that's where I really want to see this matter also of this young boys will be presented before the tribunal also if at all they come to Western Sub-Region, because we want to ensure that this exercise at least be a nationwide exercise and ready also to move across all the regions, and that's where we're going to be seeing cases where the young people, maybe the masses, have never had also really justice also really be addressed before the tribunal. That to me would be quite well, because many of the people sometimes also really go through a lot of trauma, and also with the delayment in the justice system, also in other public spaces, it becomes quite difficult for them to access justice. That is how, at the end of the day, people also lose trust in the judicial system. And I really want to say, with the Uganda Human Rights Commission Tribunal being in place, this would actually make it also very, very much easier, and with also the process, which is also said to be delaying, that would also be at least easier, because the judges come and also listen to the queries, and if there's any defense, the defendants raise their complaints, and we see justice. And that is how quite simple it is, because at the end of the day, that is where we expect justice, because if justice is said to be denied, then it's actually coming from also through the dilemmas, because usually we have a saying that justice delayed is actually justice denied. And that is one thing also we need to follow up on, and we pray that the same tribunal that is sitting in Kigezi sub-region be moved also across the entire country and in all the regions of this country. And we also want to see the same in Western sub-region, and that will also make it quite easier for the complaints also of the different people to be heard in there. That's why we're going to be taking yet another short commercial break that will be ushering us into the second half of the first hour. My name is Farish Majid. I hope you are still with us up to our final hour. That's 9 o'clock, and that's where we are going to be leaving the studios for the newsroom to also come through and give you what's happening in the world of liberty. If we take a short commercial break, that brings us back after a few minutes. Take a break.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from that short commercial break. We are 33 minutes already after 7 o'clock, and that means our time is almost running up, and we still have lots more to also give you in there, and that's where we're saying what continues to happen also within your areas. We still come back and let you know that also in there. And remember, it being also the rainy season, we are still seeing many of those also road networks also being paralyzed. And yesterday we did see also shocking images emerging from also the Obongimo Highway also in there, where we did see a bus belong to one of the bus companies operating in the region, also stopping the other cars from moving because of the flooding. That means we need to do something also in relation to that, and that means we still have something to do, and that would also make it quite simple. And it's not only affecting Madisa region, Aluru sub-region also is as well affected, and that is also where we now need to also understand of what continues to make rounds in there, because we need to make sure that nothing bad happens in there, and that's also where we need to also be very much cautious in there as we onto these roads, because with the rainy season, many of the roads are also going to be affected in there, and that is also where we're going to be seeing flooding, and that would be quite bad. And now let's connect to Alfred Jawok and also let us know of what's happening in his area. That would be quite well for us to also understand. And remember, with the rainy season, flooding is actually one of those expected results. Alfred, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay.
We are seeing the rainy season. How is it impacting on your area?
Good morning to all of our viewers. Good morning to the host. And I want to say, during this rainy season, people face a lot of challenges. And among these challenges are the government or the public roads. When you look at Pakwach, we have the highway, Pakwach-Karuma road, and this road during the rainy season people get a lot of challenges. And yesterday, as I talk now, I'm in Pakwach district, and yesterday we had a flooding where no movement from Port to Karuma, and also from Tangi up to Magician Falls National Park. You know, we have a river Tangi, and that water comes from deep park, and if that flooding comes, it cuts off every movement. You cannot cross the other side or that side going to Karuma. And also the challenge is people are worried due to this flooding. Others are saying the bridge may also fall one time, but we pray it doesn't happen. And this is what is happening. And living Pakwach district, when you look at the road from Panimur up to Pakwach, yesterday also we saw an accident where a food lorry overturned. Yesterday was market day for Panimur. All vehicles maybe from northern Uganda, from Arua, from Gulu, they take passengers, the fishmongers, and everyone going to the market. And yesterday, due to flooding, also on that bridge called Atara, a vehicle overturned. And we thank God no one was injured and no death has been registered. And this is a challenge we are facing.
Okay,
and
still.
Also, from, as I speak now, from Nebi up to Dukia, it's also the worst. Vehicles are packed. Okay. And the major challenge people are facing is just the road. The other time when the president came, he talked about it as we also talked about the road. But when is the road going to be worked on? And also, when is the road from that Pakwach bridge, that area, that's what people are demanding for, a modern bridge like in Jinja. Okay, Farish.
Okay, I may ask, if I may ask before I let go of you, what is causing the flooding at the river in there? What is basically causing the flooding? Could it be maybe the increasing water rise in the water levels?
No, but that one cannot cause that flood. That area, it should have another bridge, because River Tangi, the one we are talking about, when it rains the other side of Magician Falls National Park, the water comes from the other side and it floods. So The other time they promised to put some culverts, and when you look at the work, no, nothing has been done. It's not about flooding, it's all about the nature of that area where it floods always.
Okay, so what are the locals saying and the leaders?
The locals, I'm trying, yesterday I spoke to LC5 Pakwati district. They are demanding a new bridge.
Okay.
Just from the other side where the Total camp is up to this side where the barracks is. So they are demanding a new bridge.
Okay.
And also the other time we did see Honorable Tonawany and the committee in Parliament, they came and inspected Kakwati Bridge and also Karuma Bridge. We are waiting for the outcome of their inspection.
Okay, thank you so much, Alfred, for the update.
Good morning, and thank you all our viewers. Many thanks to you. And also I want to send regards to Madam Daisy Kajik, Madam Maria. Please, greet for them.
All right, thank you so much. I'll do that.
Thank you.
All right, that is Alfred Jawok, our correspondent from the Alur Belt, and he is able to also really give us what he continues to make rounds in there. And now in Pakwat district particularly, we are seeing the road also really cutting, also really movements here and there. And I want to say this is not only happening in Pakwat. I want to say the same is also really happening in the Mali sub-region. And I was able to see images of the road that connects Moyo to also the Obongi being affected by the same. And that means with the return of the rains, we need to be very, very much cautious. And also as community members, we must make sure we use the road responsibly. And we must also make sure we dig at least channels and also join hands as we are waiting for the government to come. We can still also ensure that the road is safe. And that is one thing also which I want to call upon now the members of the community to also really ensure that the road that they're going to be using is actually safe, and one that they are not going to be also really destroying in there. And as we get move on with the show, remember so many issues continue to happen, and I want to really inform you that we still continue to follow up on all this, and that would also really make it quite simple for us to join hands as citizens and as locals in terms of also really making sure that we are safe, because our safety on these roads should be number one. And that's where we're saying we must make sure that we are safe. And how are we going to be safe on these roads? It is quite simple, by doing whatever also the government expects out of us. And that's where we not also really expect people to dig sand out of also the roads in there, because sometimes we see when it rains like this, some people see it as an opportunity for what we call sand mining in there. That's sort of where we see them going to dig, that is sand out of these places. And that is where we're saying people must not do that, because recently I was moving around also the local governments within Western sub-region, and I was able to see some of these roads slowly developing holes and also developing also the gullies. And when I tried asking what exactly could have happened, I was able to be informed that sometimes the locals use also this opportunity to dig out the sand that is on this road solely for what we call sand mining in there, because that is where some feel it is the best opportunity for them to earn money. But we are saying that shouldn't be the case. We should avoid tendencies of what we call sand mining out of the roads in there, because at the end of the day, that is where we are going to be seeing also really a lot of challenges, and we must also really avoid that. It's quite simple. We need to also really make sure that we also really get money out of other activities other than depending on what continues to happen in such a way. And that is one thing also really which I feel I need to keep you reminded of. And I really want to make this humble appeal to each and every citizen out there. Much as we're looking for survival, but we must also really mind of the safety of the road. And that is one thing also really which at the end of the day, in my own opinion, would also really and should be given a key priority, because if at all we are not giving it a priority, and then definitely that would be very, very much bad. And maybe a waste of time. And earlier on I was talking about the plenary sessions, so the maiden plenary sessions that is for Uganda Human Rights Commission commencing that in Tigray sub-region, which is ongoing now. And now a man, also where we have now seen a family of a man who was shot by police now being paid 45 million. Once the same, we want to see also the same also be extended to the same also to their areas, also really, for instance, Western sub-region, where we did see also some atrocities being committed by some of the officers also in there. That would also serve as a warning. And today I do understand that the laws is also really clear. It is individual responsibility. That means if at all you are going to be also having an encounter with police officers, mark the face, mark the names, mark exactly who is that, have evidence, and that is where now we may not also really see the institution being pinned, and we may see one individual being pinned in there. That's where we are now saying the Uganda Human Rights Commission tribunal sitting that's in Kabale district on Monday, which was yesterday, awarded the shillings 45 million. That is in compensation to the family of innocent Twino Mujuni, who was brutally murdered by 2 police officers in 2008 in there. And that means justice has finally been served, and that's only one thing also which we are following up on. Yet this incident happened in 2008. That means it has gone more than 15 years, and that means there's something now that needs to be done. And what is exactly that is to be done? That means we need now to join hands in terms of sort of making sure that these people get justice. And now the tribunal presided over by Chairperson Maria Mangadia, also and comprising of also commissioners, that is Crispin Kaheru. We do have Lamex Omara Peter, and also retired Colonel Stephen Basaliza is in Kabale district also for the hearing of 13 petitions, also really under the same in there. Now the tribunal heard also from Mr. Francis Rabisamba that his son Twino Mujuni also really was taken to police custody on suspicion of theft. But tragically, his also really body was later discovered at Kabale Hospital mortuary with fatal bullet also really in the head in there. That is something also which we did see police also really doing that. Could it be police officers who were responsible for this accident, or maybe this incident in there? Definitely, we are following up on that, and that is something we did see happening. And now the tribunal found also that the 2 police officers, that is Inspector of Police Defasi Buko and the Corporal Kahiriza, had violated Twino Mujuni's right to life. And the officers also had claimed that they were releasing him on police bond, but instead took him to that Kawalega Hills and executed him. And that is one thing also which we did is happening in there. And torture is actually against human rights, and you do not also have the rights to touch another person in there. That is one thing also which we need to also ask as a warning, and that's where individuals, more so those who are also really there to protect human rights, must also learn from, because as a police officer, we do not expect you also to be among the perpetrators of people's rights being violated. And that is one thing also which I feel I need to also let you know of, because it should sound as a warning to those who also may want to engage in the same activity. And it later Twino Mujuni was brutally murdered by 2 police officers who had picked him also really from Kabale police custody and shot him in the head, claiming that he was also a notorious thief in there. But do you have also the right of killing a notorious thief in there? That's where we're saying it is definitely not. It is unless by orders of the courts of law. Other than that, you do not have the right to take another person's life. Be it even if you are a police officer, you are a soldier, definitely you do not have that right. And that is one thing also which we are following up on, and we want to say people must at least learn something from these instances. And many of times today, people are being killed by police officers. They know, and they really also really lack on where to go to. And that's where we're saying, if at all any officer is behind the violation of your right, you have the mandate of identifying who this officer is, and move on, report the case, and file the case before what we call the Uganda Human Rights Commission. And that is where at the end of the day you may get justice, because sometimes people don't have trust in the police system. They feel if at all the crime was committed by a police officer, and how am I going to be reporting this police officer to fellow policemen? That is how it becomes quite difficult, and that's why we need to sensitize the masses that much as you also really are there, and maybe your right is being violated. You can still do something, and you may still get justice that you deserve in there. Now the tribunal ordered that 60% of the compensation be given that to Mujuni's 2 children. And Ms. Wangadi also already said the tribunal's decision sent a message that impunity had no place also in civilized society in there. And that's one thing also which I feel I need to keep you also reminded of. And now let's leave that aside. Remember, the politicians across the country are undergoing what we call the Thanksgiving ceremony. But what exactly are these Thanksgiving ceremonies for? That is one thing also we need to understand, because elsewhere we're seeing people doing the Thanksgiving ceremonies. You hear today this one has done, tomorrow the other one has done. But what exactly are these Thanksgiving ceremonies implying, and what do they mean, and why are they taking place at this time? Because they were voted, if at all it's because the masses voted them. We are in 2024. Elections took place in 2021. Why are the Thanksgiving ceremonies coming now? That is one thing also now we need to ask ourselves, because definitely this should be sending a message, because I really sometimes I'm not getting it. I feel something's not right somewhere. Why are the Thanksgiving ceremonies taking place right now? This is the question only now I need to understand. Now MP Namuju defies presidential advisor, organizes a Thanksgiving. That's one of the stories that we are seeing on the paper this morning. where hundreds of people thronged St. Jude Thaddeus Catholic Parish in Chiazanga, Luengo district on Sunday to take part also already in a special Thanksgiving ceremony for the area woman member parliament, that's Sisi Namuju, recently released on bail also on charges of budget corruption. And that's something also we did see, where Namuju was dressed in a white garment and was accompanied by some politicians, including the Minister for Microfinance, Haruna Kasolo. We do have Bukodo West Legislator Muhammad Sentai and Budaka District Woman Member Parliament, that's Pamela Nasio Kamugo, who accompanied this legislator. That is already where we did see that happening related to the church. And that's where we did see Senior Presidential Advisor on Greater Masaka Affairs, Ms. Justice Nyamiri, had earlier asked the state, that is the State House and Corruption Unit, to block the function, and also saying it was unnecessary since the legislator is still under prosecution in there. But we did see this ceremony going on. What exactly does it mean, and why exactly did this lady defy the presidential order? That is one thing also we need to understand and also follow up on. Ms. Namere had also asked police in the area to ensure that the function did not take place, but all in all, we did see the function going on. Could it be that the police had also already closed an eye? Because sometimes we expect the police to be on the alert every time. We would not expect also this function to go on without approval of the police. And that is one thing also which we are still following up. And if at all police was also informed, why then did the function take place? These are questions we need to ask. We need to also have answers to. And could it, if maybe this was an opposition function, could it go on? Definitely, these are questions also we need to understand in there. That is one thing also we need to also understand. And could it be that the legislator also maybe took it at a low pace? But we are still seeing hundreds standing up for the function. That means one person who could have actually tipped off police if at all this function was an illegal one. And that is one thing also we did see, where Namuju and other two legislators, Paul Akamba, who is of Busiki County, also that's in Namutumba district, and Yusuf Matembuli of Bunyore East, that is also in the Butaleza district, we are granted bail by the Anti-Corruption Court, also division, that's also the earlier this also month, and where they had spent 55 days in Luzira prison. However, Akamba could not also immediately leave prison, as he still faces that is separate charges of theft, that is of shading 3.4 billion meant for the compensation that is of the Buyaka Growers Cooperative Limited, and that's something also where the society members are also still demanding this man to also pay their money either. But as a legislator, if at all you are pinned in such theft or corruption scandals, what does it mean to your voters? And what does this mean to your votes? Because the voters and your votes are different, because you may have voters who do not have votes. And that is one thing also we need to understand and we need to follow up on. And during the Sunday Thanksgiving ceremony, Right Reverend Gonzaga Nsamba, the parish also priest of Busibo Parish also praised Ms. Namuju for the bravery she exhibited, also really that was while in prison, also really alluding her to what Jesus also Christ also really went for. And that's also where we did see the legislator and the priest also really commenting and also comparing also this lady to Jesus Christ in there. But is it really worth? And that statement also really means a lot, because this is a person who is being investigated and was arrested for corruption. And could it be that this legislator, maybe this priest, was condoning corruption? Definitely, I do not know, but really for her to, for that comparison, that is to Jesus Christ, it's really very much unfair to me, because that legislator is also really, the legislator that we are talking about is actually being investigated under corruption, and today the case has not been disposed of, and it is still unclear if at all she's either guilty or not guilty. And that's really where I feel the priest's statement is very much bad to me. And now both Reverend Father Mbaga Tuzinde Senkungu, the parish priest of St. Jude Thaddeus Church, that in Chazang, and Reverend Father Charles Mbazi thanked Namuju for consistently also supporting church projects, including that the ongoing projects also of a new church structure in the area in there. But really, is it okay now for corruption money to be accepted as holy in there? I do not know definitely if at all this matter is also in there, because both the reverends are praising the lady for supporting church projects. What if the money she has been using for supporting church projects is that corrupt one? Definitely, I do not know, but also that's something also we need to also follow up on. After the mass, clerics also from different denominations converged. That's at Kahuwe Village, Namuju's ancestral home. That is for the mega party also in there. And that's one thing also which we did see. That's also something which at the end of the day, where we did see Namuju thanking all the people who stood by her ever since also the matters already arose in there. That means we need to also make sure that these matters be given ear to solely be heard, and at the end of the day we are going to be seeing justice solely happening in the while addressing Eralda Sulwengo on June 22nd. Anita, Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Anita Mang, and two legislators, that is solely Daudi Kabanda of Kasambia County, Mubende District, and also Juliet Chinyamatama, that's a woman MP of Rukaya, defended Namuju, saying that who also she's a generous also person who shared the money that also she was being investigated for with the electorates. But really, is it enough for these people to share the money that was obtained in a legal way with these electorates? Is it good for church to actually take its money? Definitely I say no, because in corruption, that is where we all need to join hands and fight this vice, because it's not the state duty, the state players' duty alone to also make sure they do that, but we can be able to support them by tipping, first of all, the state actors on the issues of pertaining corruption. And today we have institutions that have been established in place, and all those are to fight the vice of corruption, and really to also really maybe praise people behind corruption like this. To me really is a very, very much burden for me, because it's going to be motivating many people to corruption, and that wouldn't also really be quite good in there. And that is one thing also really at the end of the day where we say corruption should be kicked out of the country. And who exactly is to kick corruption out of the country? It is me and you to do that, and nobody is going to be coming to our rescue other than us ourselves. And that means, if at all we are to fight corruption as a country, we need to join hands as also the citizens and stakeholders to combat the vice in there, and that is where we are going to be fighting corruption. And corruption is actually one of those factors that has dragged the country down, and today many people are saying that development projects have actually stalled because of corruption. And that is where recently we did see the President, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, coming out clearly to state that also he now has enough evidence that corruption has been taking place in the country, and right from the top up to down. And that means now there's need for the cleaning also of the institutions also and the other places also in there to fight the vice of corruption in. And now still talking about President, we did see him also tipping off schools on the new curriculum. That is another story that we are seeing on the papers this morning, and this is on the monitor, where President Museveni has tasked secondary school head teachers to effectively monitor the implementation of the competence-based curriculum for lower secondary schools, so to adhere, that is to achieve its main objectives in there. And remember, this year, we shall be seeing the first lot under the new curriculum also really sitting for their UNEP examinations. And that means now schools need to adhere to the call made by the President. And really, to me, this is actually one of the best curriculum also really the country is undergoing. And it's competence-based, and this is also really where the learners get to see what they're learning. Unlike some of us who went through the old curriculum, which I really feel pumped us with a lot of theories and theoretical also part of it. And that is one thing also we need to appraise the government and the National Curriculum Development Center for also ensuring that we develop this curriculum that is a bit competence-based. And today you realize most of the learners come out of the schools at least when they have a skill that is only where they can be able to sort of earn some small things for themselves in there. And that is one thing also where we see them also learning whatever, also now seeing whatever they learn in class. And unlike us who learned about the Rift Valleys, where we learned about soil erosion, where we learned about other stories, North America, geography, all this didn't also really mean a lot of really a lot of things to us. Today we talk about the floras. I've never seen the floras all my life, and these are things that we learned in geography and also the other subjects like SST. But now this is where I feel the curriculum also deserve to be changed, in that today we see the learners seeing exactly what they learn, and that's also where I want to make the same appeal also for the curriculum of primary section also to be changed in there, and then the one for A-level also deserves to be changed. And that is where we may see learners not necessarily also really facing the challenge of unemployment after school, because somebody at least will be coming out of a skill, let's say in tailoring or bakery or food and nutrition, because this is part of still the new curriculum, or agriculture perhaps, because recently we were able to see the learners of Mvara Senior Secondary also exhibiting what they're having. That means this curriculum is indeed competence-based, and it is actually one that is deserving for this country. And today with the cases of the rampant unemployment among also young people, this is where I feel it may also be a solution to that, and that is where I need to praise and also acknowledge government for the efforts of having this new curriculum also in there, because at the end of the day we are going to be seeing our learners first of all learning and seeing what exactly they're learning in classroom, and that is where it becomes practical And that is really where I want to recommend government, and also really I want to appeal to government to also make sure that the curriculum for the A level and primary also really be changed in there. And that's where we're going to be seeing also the first lot under this new curriculum sitting for their UNEB examinations this year, where others would be sitting also really both UB table and also really what we call the new curriculum also really in there, which is competence based. And really that is where we see the president, His Excellency Kaguta Museveni, also making that call in there, where Mr. Museveni was represented by State Minister for Kampala and Metropolitan Affairs, that is Christopher Chofata-Gobye, at the Platinum. Already said also the questions also must also be fully answered, and also the curriculum now should therefore be embraced, and the competence-based curriculum was adopted by government in 2020 also already, that is to enhance learner skills and competences in there. However, the General Secretary for Uganda National Teachers Union, that is Philbert Baguma, also recently noted that some resources must be availed to ensure the effective implementation of the curriculum in there. And that's one thing with this. Mr. Philbert Bagume revealed that currently less than half of the teachers have been taken through also the assessment, also training in there. And that is one thing also where we did see other teachers also coming out to fight this curriculum that is just already being developed, and that's now being implemented today. And many teachers have actually raised fears, but today I want to say many of them have now adopted and have also really embraced the new curriculum, and they're actually smoothly going through it, just like also really what we did see happening in there. And that is one thing also really where I want to ask now those teachers who are still backward, those who are still also fixed in there, where they still want to teach the learners with the old curriculum, where I want to now say they should stop so and they should embrace the new curriculum, because the new curriculum is the way to go. And that is where we did see also some learners and also some teachers also going through the same advice of the embracing the new curriculum in there. We are going to be taking yet another short commercial break that will be ushering us into our second hour of the show. My name is Farish Majid. I hope you are having a wonderful time wherever you're watching us from. We take a break and we bounce back shortly with lots more, and that is where I want to ask you now to stay tuned as we get to move on with the show.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from that long commercial break. We are back into our second hour of the show. We are 7 minutes after 8 o'clock, and remember our final destination remains 9 o'clock, and that's where we are going to be leaving the studios. That is for the next team, that is the Elders News team, that is led by Fateh Manuel, to come through and also really give you what continues to happen in the world of news. And I really want to inform you that for those who are actually part of that news bulletin, there's a new team member who has just joined in there, and she will be also really maybe brought before you anytime from now, and that is also really a lady who will be also really supporting the news team, that's of the Lubarat crew in there. That's where our Ale Danibal Warudi to wait for her to come through in there. That's where we are going to be doing that. And I want to inform you, as West Nile TV, we remain committed to informing you and also really keeping you updated of what continues to make rounds in and around the world in there. And remember, so many stories have been discussed in the first hour, and I also talked about, I gave an update of what happened in Stacey, and where we did see the death toll now rising 25, and also told you about what happens in there, and as of now, and I will still keep you informed if at all there's any development that continues to make rounds from that side in there. And also talked about also other stories of that in relation to Uganda Human Rights Commission, which is having what we call the maiden plenary sessions happening right now in Kabale, and I really want to say we also need to have the same in Western Sub-region, also really for matters also that deserve human rights attention, also to be addressed in there, plus many other stories. And now to bring you back in our second stories, in the second hour, I want to start off the discussions right away from Koboko district, where recently I was, where CCTV cameras were handed over to the health facility, and that already follows the incidents that continue to happen in the area in there. And remember, in March this year, we lost a baby, a newborn baby that was stolen from the health facility, and there was nothing actually to trace on who entered the health facility because there were no cameras. And now, well-wishers under Lumago Foundation, one of the family also really one of the former army chiefs, so that's already under the Idi Amin regime, also they have rushed out the rescue of the health facility by donating 52 pieces of CCTV cameras that will be installed both outside and inside, and that's to help monitor on whatever activity is to take place that is at the health facility. Remember, so many issues have actually been raised about this health facility I'm talking about, which serves a number of people from within Koboko district and also Yumbe district and other surrounding areas like Maracha. But insecurity had actually been happening in that health facility, and that means there was nothing to solely make sure if at all there's any accident, maybe any incident that happens, and to retrieve it back was not possible because there were no cameras. And also one of the observations I was able to solely witness is that the facility has a lot of porous border entrance and also the exit points where the fences had been cut, and that's also where we are saying now with the CCTV camera we expect more to be installed across all the facilities. And first of all, that would also bring in fear on whoever is to enter the health facility in there, and that is one thing also we did see happen in Koboko, where I was at the end of last week in there. And that is one thing also which I feel I need to keep you reminded of, because I'm talking about what happens in Koboko General Hospital, but somebody out there could be saying they have been seeing that happening, and what exactly have they been doing? And remember, through an interaction with officials from the health facility, I was able to realize that ever since the incident that happened in March this year, where a baby was stolen from the health facility, update, the baby has not been recovered, and nobody knows about the whereabouts of this child that was stolen, and the mother was rendered helpless because the baby, according to one person who acted to be also as a caretaker, sneaked with the baby and disappeared with the baby up to date. And that is one thing also we did see happening in there. And remember, that is not the only case. We did also see a case of an ambulance that was packed with cigarettes at the health facility and was arrested from the health facility. And how did the ambulance enter in there? It remained unknown. We had a case of a medical personnel who was solely arrested throwing a mattress over the health facility. All this happened in Koboko General Hospital now with the CCTV camera being brought on board. That will, to me, in my own opinion, solely address challenges such as theft of drugs. That also could be happening in there. That is also going to be history now, because the people behind the camera who are going to be monitoring, will be monitoring the surveillance, who will be behind surveillance, will be monitoring the entire a medical facility in there. That would also address the cases of theft. And that is one thing also where I now want to thank the family of the retired Major General, the late, that's Isaac Lumago, who was actually the army chief in the Idi Amin regime. The children have joined hands under the Lumago Foundation today and have donated about 52 pieces of camera, and that is only going to be installed to monitor the indoor and outdoor activities within the health facility in there. Efforts also and plans are underway to actually turn the current location of the hospital into what we call a specialized children's hospital. That would be quite well, because the efforts also now to relocate the health facility to another location, because the area where it is sitting on is actually not enough. That is also to be a health hospital in there. And that is one thing also now it will be turned into a children's hospital. That would be quite well. And that is where we need to also really ensure that the safety of the patients and the caretakers at the health facility is guaranteed, because this health facility is receiving patients, as earlier on I mentioned, from the neighboring districts within Koboko, and also the parts of DRC and South Sudan, because looking at that area, it is not very far away from Koboko, from DRC and South Sudan. That means patients from the two areas also really sometimes come and access health facility and also the health services from the health facility, and that means we need to also make sure that what happens in there is actually monitored, and whoever is to enter the health facility is actually one that is known. And who exactly is going to be knowing? That's also where we are saying the cameras are going to be doing a tremendous job in terms of sort of making sure that the people get the services that they need. And that is one thing also where now we need to also ask and appeal to everybody out there also to make sure that they support the health facilities. It may not be also Koboko General Hospital alone, but it may be also the other health facilities within your local governments. If at all such activities are happening, then you who is there, who is able, you must make sure you give back to the community. You must make sure that you have the needy, you have the poor, you have the vulnerable through beefing up security. And that is where at the end of the day, we are going to be seeing people getting also the necessary help and the necessary also maybe the desired kind of activity they need, and that would also be quite well. And that is where I want to also ask each and every family out there also now to also make sure, at least if they are able, they should also embrace this family in there, and that would also make it quite possible for us to change the society that we live in today. And that is one thing at the end of the day that would also bring in what we call development and security. Without security, there will be no development, and that's one assurance I can give each and everybody out there. Without security, there's not going to be development, and investors are not going to be attracted. And that is one thing also which I feel at the end of the day is quite good and quite well as we get to move on with the show. And remember, earlier on, I talked of so many other stories, and I wouldn't also wish to repeat myself on that. But now let's head into Toroko, where the Toroko district is seeking for shillings 850 million to combat river flooding. And when we talk about river flooding, today this continues to happen in all the areas. And now in Toroko, the people are asking for 850 million to combat the vice that is of the corruption, maybe of the flooding in there. Now River Semliki flooding has displaced residents, with water also extending up to 10 kilometers island, which also damaged, that is the roads in there. And that is one thing now we are seeing the Toroko district leaders calling upon, that is the government, to provide that is shillings 850 million, and that's to construct an enactment also the critical flooding spots that is on the Similiki also river. And now the district, the local district also chairman, that is Mr. William Kasoro, said frequent also floodings have resulted in riverbank collapses, and that's where we did see severe also impacting people's lives in there. And he noted that human activities on the Ugandan side have also really weakened, that's the riverbanks, while the riverbank on the DRC side remain also intact due to absence of such activities. That means as Uganda, we need to also learn from what is happening in DRC, because if at all we continue hampering by doing activities, man-made activities on the shores, definitely we are going to be weakening the banks, and that would also result into flooding, and that would be very, very much bad. And one of those activities that actually has weakened the banks is fishing activities, and fishing activities which have resulted in cutting down of trees, that is for drying the fish, also really have resulted into that. And that is one thing also really I feel we need to sort of talk about. And instead the entire volume of water is diverted towards the Ugandan side, leading to the riverbank collapse, displacing also residents, and flooding also extending to up to 10 kilometers island, which also damages the roads in there. And that is one thing also which we feel and talk about. And now the most affected areas include Kayaja, Haibali, and also Budiba, and also the other areas also surrounding in there. And now earlier this year, in collaboration with with Food and Culture Organization, that is FAO, Toroko district already used more than 300 million. That's to construct that's embankments at some key points. That is in Borambole sub-county in there. And that is one thing also we did see. And now during the recent floods, these embankments also have successfully prevented overflow in targeted areas, while flooding also really occurred in other areas lacking such structures. And that is one thing also really I feel I need to talk about. And now the Toroko District Engineer Richard Kakuru explained that also really the embankments are designed to extend, that is the 500 meters also really with the thickness of about 1.5 meters above the ground in there. That means we need to join hands, and also really maybe for this works in Toroko, other areas along the banks of River Nile in Western Sub-region could actually pick a leaf from what happens in Toroko, because if you look at districts like Obongi, Madiokolo, and also really Moyo, many of them are suffering through also the activities of the river banks also flooding in there. That means we need to also make sure, if at all this works out, then definitely we may also use it as a sample study and also embrace the same, that's to avoid the flooding that continues to also hit the entire region also in there. And that means we can still pick a leaf from that. And now a report released in April by the Toroko District Environment Officer, that is Mr. Herbert also that Kamuhanda, indicate that approximately we do have 25 acres of land on the Ugandan side also already being also lost, that due to collapsing of the banks on the river, and that's something also we did see happening. Now the most affected areas was Rukora village, that's in Buramule sub-county, where land previously used for agriculture had been also submerged by the river. Now the report noted that the river had also diverted towards the Ugandan side, also really posing a risk activity in that. That means we need to join hands and avoid those bad activities, and that would also really help, and that would also actually endanger our lives, because if we talk about man-made activities, sometimes so today we blame these bad activities on ourselves, because as man sometimes we do not listen, and that is how we also get ourselves into trouble. And that is one thing also which I feel I need to keep you reminded of as we get move on with the show, because if at all we not remind you of that, then definitely we are going to be still seeing the challenges of the environment also already hitting us back, because if at all we not also protect the environment, then definitely they may revenge. And that is how, if at all we cut trees along the shores of the rivers, if at all we encroach on the wetlands, when flooding comes, our houses that we build, our nice houses that we still build on these wetlands are going to be destroyed, and that means it is also really us that are going to be affected by these challenges, and we are going to be losing lives, we are going to be losing property, and that would also really make us feel very bad. And that is how we feel government is not doing enough, and yet we could avoid some of these activities. And that is where I want to say, as human beings, as citizens, let's be law-abiding citizens. Let's also listen to the pleas of the experts. If the experts say this is bad, we need to go by that. And that is one thing also really where at the end of the day I feel I need to talk about. And as we get moving with the show, remember yesterday was Global World Youth Day, where we did see President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni bracing the event that is also in Soroti District, and the event was held under the theme Skills Development for Enhancement of Youth Opportunities, that did take place at Soroti Co-op Primary Teachers College, that is in Soroti District. And that's one thing we did see happening in yesterday, and I really feel we need to also embrace this, the theme of this year's Youth Day celebrations. And as a Royal City, I do understand we are still already having our preparatory meetings, and that means we are going to be celebrating ours at a later date. That is certainly something that we got yesterday, and now the preparatory meetings have already started, and we are going to be also letting you know when the right time comes, when Arua City will be commemorating a day now, and that's already something which I feel I need to keep you reminded of. And as we get to also celebrate the youth, remember today the youth are the majority population, and who deserve also to be heard, and also who deserve to be supported. And now this year's theme talks about skills development for enhancement of opportunities for the youth. And that means we need to also embrace the skills. If the skill may be in music, why don't we build on that? The skill may be in dancing, why don't we build on that? If the skill is playing football, why don't we still build on that? And that is where we are talking about skills development. And skills development is actually paramount, and that would also enable many people also get opportunities. And today we have a lot of opportunities where people are earning through simply through singing, and they're earning a lot of money. That means these are skills that need to be developed, and who exactly is to be developed that skill to enhance the opportunities for the youth? It means that we are the stakeholders. First of all, talent identifiers need to spot the talent and identify the talent, also that so these young people who are out there can be able to get the skills that they deserve, and the skills also they need to also make sure that they get whatever they need to also learn from. And that was also one of the messages that was passed yesterday during also the Youth Day celebrations, where President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni presided over the main celebrant in there, and that was also where we did see him joining the youth. And that is where also which I feel the youth also should be looking at the head of state as an inspiration. And that means if at all he took over the power as a youth man, that definitely also means we must engage ourselves in active politics as we are getting close to 2026, and that would also make sure that also we get also what we want as youth in there. And that during the function where the president presided over. That's something we did see happening. And remember, if at all, we also give a hint of this day, and this day is celebrated annually. That is every 12th of August, and was designated by the United Nations also as an international day. And that's only where we did see that also happening from that international conference. Now, Youth and Children Affairs State Minister, that is Balambia Rogaba, also informed Parliament that on August 8th, that all local governments and cities were informed and guided also to observe the International Youth Day, following also what we call the national guidelines for commemoration of the national days in there. That means this day is actually mandatory for all the local governments to celebrate, but sometimes you see these local governments skipping off these days, complain that the resource envelope cannot allow them go on with this day. But really, why do we skip Youth Day is also something where I feel we need to talk about. And in 1999, in its resolution, that's of the 54/120 of the United Nations General Assembly, endorsed the recommendation also really made by the World Conference of Ministers responsible for the youth, and the celebration also really began officially to be celebrated in 2000, and the Assembly further guided also really further recommended that the information of activities be organized that is commemorated the day as a way to promote awareness of the world also program of action for the youth in there. That's something we did see. And remember, this also was in 1999, and the official celebrations began in 2000. That means we are still celebrating this day up to date, and that is where we must also make sure we celebrate the day, because celebrating the youth is actually an important occasion where the youth sometimes go through a lot, and on such days they can be guided. And that's also where I want to say the government today, which is also talking about the socio-economic transformation, could actually utilize the Youth Day, and where youth should also be rallied and also to embrace this day. But on a sad note, sometimes we see this day, it also sounds just like a normal day, and I want to say yesterday looked like a normal day to the youth, and that means we need to also make sure that this day is visible, and the visibility of this day could actually mean the government programs can also be passed on through such days, and that's also where youth can be inspired. And that's one thing also where I feel government needs to make sure and make this day more vivid, and that's also where we need to also make sure the youth, who are the majority population, get to understand that this day is actually theirs, and also let them also join hands in celebrating this day, because if at all they did not celebrate the Youth Day, then definitely that's going to be quite unfortunate. And that's where we did see the Minister of Gender, Labor, and for Gender, Labor, Social Development, and the Children and Youth, that is Honorable Balam Biarogaba, also really calling upon the local governments also really now to organize this day in there. If at all did not celebrate it yesterday, we expect it to be celebrated in a yet maybe to a identified date, and that would also mean we still celebrate this day, because we need to celebrate the youth. Because if we do not celebrate the youth, then definitely that would be quite unfortunate. And now the World Program Action for Youth encourages governments to be more responsive. That's the aspiration and the needs of the youth. That is in order to usher in a better world, and that is one thing also we are saying that must also be respected. And now young people in all countries are both also a major human resource that is for development, and also the key agents for social change, economic development, and technological also innovation. That is one thing also which I feel we need to celebrate this day for, because the youth, who are the majority population, are actually an advantage to what we call the socio-economic transformation, and that is where we're going to be seeing them actively be engaged in activities that can generate for them income. And that is one thing also which I feel we need to also talk about, because if at all we don't talk about it, then definitely that is going to be quite unfortunate for us to continue talking about the youth. And today many of the youth actually turned and also pinned for the criminality, and I feel that theme has not been respected very much. And look at also your local governments. How many skilling centers are there? And looking at Arua City, I did not also see any skilling center, and unlike one that was commissioned and updated, it is yet to also begin operations. And that means we need to also talk about the youth. And these are the demands that the youth need to make. If at all they need to also have money, other than demanding for handouts, which is really quite unfortunate. And today you really see the youth also asking for money from the politicians instead of demanding for such services. And really I feel very much bad about that. And that is where if I make any demands from the politicians, it should be in relation to what we call the skills development centers. And in Arua City we have one that was commissioned by one of the legislators, but up to now it is still non-operational. I do not know why. And we expect also him to come out and explain to the youth on this day. And this would actually be one of the demands that the youth needed to make as they celebrate this day to their leaders. What happened? Other legislators also will list them delivering the tailoring machines. Have they done enough? These are the demands that the youth need to also make sure. Have they actually achieved the purpose of the handover of these hand machines. And where are the machines? And these are things that we need to understand, and the legislators who delivered this, I don't want to mention names, but they need to find out where the machines have reached, and the sewing machines that they donated also really to their electors, also really, have they delivered enough, and have they empowered the youth enough? And who are those youths who are now part of the success, maybe the success stories of the machines? These are things that the legislator need to also really investigate and find out, also be brought before the limelight on such occasions. And that's one thing also really which I feel would be quite well for the government to attain what we call the socio-economic transformation, or what we call the unemployment also really bit of it all, because many of the youths now deserve to be employed. Many of them continue to cry of poverty. Many of them continue to cry of not being also included in government programs. We are saying the youth, first of all, must now actively engage themselves in all these government activities. They must also really be part of that. And that would also really make it quite possible for them to also really change the narrative of being labeled the poor group in there. And that is one thing also really which I feel I need to encourage the youths as we celebrate this day, which was yesterday. And this is an annual event that is celebrated annually every 12th of August, and that is one thing also really now youths must celebrate this day. If at all you celebrate the birthdays, why don't they celebrate the youth day? Is something also now I need to also really understand, and that's where we need to also make sure that now we put the local governments to task, so that the visibility of this day also really is felt. And just like Independence Day, this day also needed to be felt, and that is one thing also really at the end of the day that would also make government realize the intended purpose of the youth. And today the government is talking about socio-economic transformation, where many youths are not also really actively engaging themselves in, because I can freely say this, many youths are not also a part of the poverty activities today, and poverty eradication activities today, because they feel they have been left out. And who is supposed to bring the youth on board? It means we, the stakeholders, must bring the youth on board in terms of making sure that they get to understand why they shouldn't also leave themselves out in there. That's where we're going to be leaving the discussions in this half of the hour that will be bringing us into our final half, where we are going to be discussing issues related to what is happening in the world of sports. And I will be touching on some of the international stories later on, but for now we are going to be taking yet another short commercial break that will be bringing us back into the first and into the final and last half of the hour today, and where after we shall be having the news bulletin with Fete Manuel, and after their other programs will be following up on as planned. For now, we take a short commercial break that will bring us back into the last half of the show. My name is Faresh Majid.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Welcome back. It's the 13th of the month of August. In case you're just joining us right now, welcome back. And we are into the final half of the discussions, and we are going to be also really stopping at 9 o'clock. And thereafter, we shall be having the news bulletin Lubalati with Fete Emmanuel, who is also actually preparing, and shortly from now, he will be giving you that. And that is where we need to also really look into some of the stories that continue to make rounds in the papers also really across the country in there. Now a city lawyer has been remanded also to prison. That is over shillings 4 billion cooperatives cash. Is also another story we are seeing in the paper this morning. Now a senior lawyer in the names of John Matovu has been remanded at Luzira prison over his alleged involvement in the loss of shillings 4 billion meant for cooperative unions. And that is one thing also really we are seeing on the papers. But really, as a lawyer, as a land fella, because sometimes lawyers call themselves the land colleagues, and that is one thing also really we know them for, because as land fella, other courses also they term them also as learning processes, but for them they say they are the land ones. If at all you also involved in corruption cases also for the loss of also such monies in there, what does that mean? Could it be as a result of negligence? Definitely I do not know, but we are saying as a lawyer, you are a respected community member. We not expect you to be dragged to police, because it sounds very bad as a lawyer to be taken to prison over theft of money in there. Because now we did see that also happening. I'm now appearing before the anti-corruption court, presided over, that is by senior principal grade 1 magistrate, that's Albert Asimwe, on Monday this week, and we did see Matovu deny the charges of theft by agent and also the conspiracy to defraud in there. Now he's battling the charges alongside city lawyer Mr. Fred Makada, who was noted also already appeared before the court to take the plea in there. Now Matovu is 62-year-old, is practicing also the lawyer attached that Matovu and Matovu Advocates, while Makada is a 55-year-old attached that Makada and Makada Advocates. These are land colleagues, and I believe by the virtue of their ages, these are experienced lawyers. But really for them to be arrested and also be put behind bars for investigations under such cases, it becomes quite weird, because we don't expect them to be also committing mistakes. Because as a lawyer, we always trust them very, very much, and we do not necessarily expect them now to be arrested just like that. Now, on the other also cases, we do see other accused persons are James Muganza, the Jinja District Local Government Commercial Officer. We do have Charles Basoga, the chairperson of Busoga Cooperatives and Growers Cooperative Union, who are battling also the charges of abuse of office and causing financial loss in there. Now the two, Muganza and Busoga, we are represented by lawyer Edward Mugabe, and have ever since already released on bail in there. Now the first of also the theft by agents elicited a 14-year jail term, and upon conviction, while abuse of office amounts, that is also maximum sentence of 7 years imprisonment. And now the offense also of causing financial loss attracts, that's a maximum of 14 years in prison. And we did see Matovu dressed in black suit deny the charges and vowed to drag the government down, and coming also malicious prosecution in there. And that's one thing we did see happening in there. Now it is purported that all the trio and others still at large, also between 2018 and 2023 in Kampala and Jinja District, conspired to defraud shillings 4 billion, meant also really for the war loss, for the war loss or compensation to the growers also a session that is for their union in there. Now the prosecution for that alleges that Basoga between 2018 and 2023 in Jinja District received, that is shillings 565.95 million meant for the war loss compensation, that's Busoga Growers Cooperative Union, and put it also into personal use, knowing or having also reason to believe that such act would also cause financial loss also to the cooperative union in there. And that's one thing we did see, where it is alleged that also the Muganza between 2018 and 2023 also in Kampala and Jinja districts in abuse of authority of his employer also did an arbitrary act, what we call a prejudicial act, that is the interest of his employer when he received that 250 million money meant for also what we call the war loss compensation, that's Busoga Growers also cooperative union in there. That means this money was pocketed by some of the suspected individuals, and up to now they are still suspects, where the court has proved them either guilty or innocent, and as per now they have been presumed innocent as the investigations into the matter are yet ongoing, and they are still treated as suspects. One possibility which I feel I need to keep you reminded of, because as we get moving, we show so many of these activities continue to happen, but who exactly is also supposed to be there to also address certain of these concerns. And that's why we're saying, if at all you're entrusted, make sure that your trust is not taken for granted. You must make sure the people who entrust you with positions are actually also not put at risk in there, because if at all we are going to be putting them at risk, definitely they may not also trust anybody out there. That's why we're saying defrauding is actually one of those criminal activities that should attract heavy fines. And Muganza also really did know that, and that's one thing also we did see, and we are going to be leaving that aside. And now looking at what also happened is that is in the Coelho judgment. That's where we did see judgment is said to be taking place today. Is another story that we are seeing also really for the warlord that's really who also committed a lot of atrocities in northern Uganda. That is also together with this warlord boss, that is Joseph Kony. Now the judgment also already in the case where the former Lord Resistance Army boss, that is also commander, that's Thomas Koele, is battling also already the war crimes, is settled for August 13, which is today also already 2024 in there. Now Koele, 50-year-old, was arrested also already by the Ugandan Army in the Democratic Republic of Congo in March 2008, where he faces now multiple charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. And now the charges already include sexual violence. We do have also kidnapping, robbery, and also really plus many other activities that have also been left against the man. And we are following up on the matter closely, and we want to see if at all this matter will be also be given a final hearing in there. Now the date was set for by four-member panel, led by that is Justice Michael Elubu, after listening also already to the court other court assessors. That's opinion. Other justices where we did see on the panel are Duncan Gaswaga, we do have Stephen Mubiru and Andrew Bewasaija, who are among also the judges also who are set also to listen to this case in there. Now on August 4th, 2024, assessors Franklin Odankara, Daniel Ochen, Naiti Ajok submitted their opinion to the court sitting, that's at the Gulu High Court, advising also the judges to convict Coelho in 84 offenses and acquit him also already on 9 charges already in there. And that's one thing also we did see happening in there. But when will this matter also really be brought to book? As we also really await also really see if at all his boss, that is Joseph Kony, can also really be also brought to book in there. Remember, this people created a lot of atrocities in the northern Uganda in there during the insurgency, where many people also lost their lives. Others lost a lot of property. Others got injured because their mouths were cut. Others' ears were cut, and all this happened also during the LRA insurgency in northern Uganda. That was led by Joseph Kony also in the update, who has not been arrested, but we are still pressing up on also where he will be found out. And that is where we did see also the International Criminal Court also coming out to also make sure this person's case is actually assessed without his presence. And that means if at all he's not there, his case will still go on. And that's something we did see recently, and I want to say we are still following up on that matter and see if at all this matter will also be disposed in there. Now the assessors also recommended acquittal, that's on 5 accounts. That is on murder contrary to Act section 188 and 189 of the Penal Code Act, and rape contrary to Act section 123 and 124 of the same act in there. That's where we did see also Coelho be arrested for. And now they advised the court to acquit Coelho on 87 also accounts, so that's sort of violence to life contrary to Article 3 of the Geneva Convention, and 84 also contrary to what we call international law in there. And we are still following up on that matter. We want to see if at all this matter will be brought also to one final end. That's why we also say we are still following up on that. And remember, those who lost their property during this insurgency in northern Uganda, for instance, those from Western Sub-region, have actually been demanding government to also make sure they are compensated. And update, none of them has actually been compensated. And the over 1,000 people recently met also already a special committee that was only led by that is vice chairperson, that is Joel, that is also Joyce Bagala, who actually moved in a rural city and met with the leaders. And that is one thing also already at the end of the day I feel should also already be given a hearing here in there. And that's why we did see prosecution team comprises solely of assistant directors of public prosecutions. That's William Biansi. We do have Lino Anguzu. We have Charles Kamuli and Chess that attorney, that's Lina Omara. And the defense team also already, that's for Thomas Coelho, includes that's Kale Balaka. We do have Geoffrey Anyuru and that's Dalton Aponya, who are actually behind also the defense of this man in there. Another prosecution's case, we do have the prosecution alleged that Coelho committed the offenses between 1993 and 2005, that's in Pabo and Lamogi sub-counties, in Amuru district in India. Now born in Pabo in Amuru district, Koelo also reportedly was kidnapped on his way to school in 1987 by LRA. Since then, Koelo was allegedly involved in the LRA's atrocities that were committed in northern Uganda, and remember he was actually just abducted to join the LRA force in there, where he rose to the ranks of a commander, and he rose also through the ranks. That's until 2008 when he was captured also by the Uganda Post Defense Forces in Garama Forest in the Democratic Republic of Congo in there. And after he was charged, Koele filed also an application for amnesty under the Amnesty Act of 2000. However, his application was denied, and also was also by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and Koelo also appealed for Supreme Court on April 8th of 2015, but the court also dismissed the appeal and ruled that he should be tried, and Koelo's trial also commenced in September 2018, and he has been on remand since he was arrested ever since that time in there. And that is one thing also we did see, and offenses committed by the man of Koelo was interdicted on 93 charges relating to war crimes in northern Uganda. However, on December 13th, of 2023, the International Crime Division in Justice ruled that Koelo had a case solely to answer in 93 cases slapped against him in there, where we have a total of about 54 cases also pending prosecutions against him in there. In defense, we do have Koelo also denied killing anyone, saying he was in charge of the LRI sick bay, giving treatment also to the wounded in there. And that is one thing also where we did see him also denying charges and also allegations of being behind any person killed in there. And that means he is not, he proves also, he's saying that, in other words, he was providing also medical assistance at the sick bay to those who were also really maybe injured during the surgeries in there. And that is one thing also where we're following up on that matter. And we also hope his boss, that is Warlord Joseph Kony, already be arrested at one time, and that would also be quite well, because this perpetrated a lot of atrocities in northern Uganda in there, where today when we talk about northern Uganda being one of those vulnerable areas, today it actually traces back sometimes to this war that also destabilized the region in there. And that is where we're going to be leaving that discussion aside with. And in case, as the viewer, you have something also you feel we need to talk about, feel free to drop it on our comment sections. If at all you're watching it via YouTube, feel free to drop it in there. If at all you're watching it via Facebook, also as well, feel free to drop it in there. And I will be in position to also read it through also your comments in the remaining minutes of the hour in there. And that's where we're going to be continuing with. And now to continue with, we look at also the undeployed medical interns who have petitioned the President, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. That is where we are now seeing the undeployed medical interns have petitioned President Museveni, also seeking his intervention in resolving the crisis also that has left about 1,327 medical interns without deployment in there. And now they handed their petition, that's President Museveni, during the commemoration of the National Youth Day on Monday at Suret Primary Teachers College, that's Suret district in there. Now, Mr. Joseph Socrates Odongo, a pre-internship coordinator, told journalists that while internship is a mandatory part of medical training, it's surprising also that part of their group also have been left out also that's to undergo the training in there, where about 2,706 applicants, only 1,263 were deployed, leaving the majority, that's of 1,327 medical interns are also deployed in there. That means their hopes have remained futile, and that means they are now calling upon government to come to their rescue and also have them be deployed in. We have Mr. Alan Karim, another pre-intern, said all interns already require nurses, pharmacists, and midwives. Therefore, subject to this prior lesson, now they deserve to be also deployed in there. Now, in terms of demand, the supplementary funding of shillings 18 billion to cater for the deployment, and the request also for a meeting with the president to discuss the matter in detail in there. And that is where we did see them also really demanding to meet the president, and many of them are actually youth, and during the 8th Day celebration they actually presented their petition to the head of state during the National Youth Day celebrations, that's during the World Day Youth celebrations. That is at Suret Primary School, also already in Private Teachers College in there. And I feel that is where the president already needs now to ask the responsible authorities to address these posed concerns in now. We did say State Minister for Health in charge of general duties, Ms. Anifa Kaweya, also Bangirana in an August 6th letter. Also the Speaker of Parliament also explained that the ministry maintains standards of one specialist supervising 4 medical interns. That is also to ensure effective knowledge transfer and skill development for the learners in there. And that is one thing also already which we feel we need to also talk about, because if at all we leave the interns out, definitely it's quite difficult. And in some universities, without doing internship, it becomes very difficult for you to graduate in there. And that's one thing also which we feel. Internship is actually very much good for these learners who are demanding also for President Museveni's intervention, also to be hard, because without internship, people are not going to be getting the skills, because other than also the theoretic part of in class, definitely when it comes to internship, many of them actually learn through also hands-on skills, and that is where it becomes very much important for these concerns to be heard, because if at all their concerns are not heard, then it becomes quite difficult. And according to the ministry, received an allocation that's of shillings 35 billion for the current financial year to cover the cost also of medical interns and senior house officers. Also noted that the total of interns also of the year includes allowances and pay also that's a tax amounts that is 315 million in there. That is where also we are going to be leaving a discussion to medical interns aside. And also when we talk about still what relates to medical attention, today we are celebrating the World Breastfeeding Week, and also which I feel we need to also talk about, because if at all we are not celebrating the World Breastfeeding Week, then definitely today we are going to be still facing challenges. And one of the challenges that actually we are going to be undergoing is the issues of nutrition, because sometimes mothers not actually breastfeed their children, and this week is actually to raise awareness on the benefits of what we call the breastfeeding, which is actually one of those activities that shouldn't be undermined or shouldn't be left out. And as World Breastfeeding Week commences, and also we see also already turning attention, and also as we see the week concluding, we are still saying breastfeeding should be given a keen attention, because the country has made also what we call significant strides promoting exclusive also breastfeeding, with recent data showing that 87% of the mothers now breastfeed also for 6 months of their children living also. But we are saying breastfeeding should go at least for 2 years, because by 2 years old the child is still a baby and who deserves all those nutritious, what we call nutritious social activities. And that's where breastfeeding becomes very much important. And we must also fight also what we call breastfeeding week, and we must also raise awareness. We must ask the mothers to take advantage of the breastfeeding also in there, because many of them fear actually to breastfeed their children today in public spaces. We are saying make sure, if at all you fear breastfeeding, cover the baby up, let the baby breastfeed. But today you are breastfeeding their children or they are feeding their babies on bottles, other than also giving them that nutritious milk from the breast, and leaving it maybe to be fed by other people. And that is where also today we are talking about breastfeeding should be given keen attention, and men should also avoid that, because sometimes recently I was also seeing one of the medical doctors coming out and raising concern also over this vice that is increasing. But we're saying breastfeeding should be given for the children, and many babies are going to be living a healthy life, because they will see many of the children are they have not also really had what we call the breastfeeding also elaborately in there. That is one thing also where we're going to be leaving a discussion aside with. And still talking about this week, which is already where we did see the world also celebrate the World Youth Day. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni also asked the youth to use the right channels, that is to fight corruption in there. That's one thing we did see, where President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni also reiterated his call to the youth to fight also corruption through proper channels, and that call was also made during the World Youth Day celebrations. That's at Asuret Primary Teachers College, that's in the Asuret sub-county, that's in Soret district, where the president. And that's one thing we did see. The event also really running under the theme skills development for enhancement of youth opportunities. And that is where also I still want to repeat myself, skills development of the youth is actually very much important, and we must make sure the youth also really have their talents and their skills developed, and that would also really, at the end of the day, make sure that they have the opportunities which will also kick them out of the unemployment basket in there. Because if at all somebody is now skilled, trust me, that person is going to be jumping out of the unemployment basket, and that will also make sure they have something which they do at the end of the day. And now still talking about youth unemployment. Yesterday I was able to move in Central Division, and I was able to see one of these horrific scenes. This happened just at a Primary School, where a thief was also, well, non-thief within the area, a youth, was actually caned for stealing over 100,000, and that is one thing also which I feel where we need to sort of now talk to the youths about theft. And skilling them would actually be quite good, and that is one thing also which I feel I need to still ask the youths on, because if at all I not ask them on, we are going to be seeing many youths now still engaged in criminal activities. For instance, drug abuse and theft, which at the end of the day leaves them also helpless in there, and that is where we're talking, when we talk about skilling, the youth must be skilled in so many of these activities. And the skilling not only need to be on hand-on. What about what we call the psychosocial skill development, which is really quite important, and also to talk to the people about their brain, and that is also really where such skilling will actually be good, and employing and also educating and also empowering the youth to become counselors would actually be good, and that would actually be one of the skills that the youth also could be empowered with, and many of them could actually now earn simply through that. And that's one thing also at the end of the day that would be quite good. And I really want to say skills development is actually good, but how do we do it? And how do we make sure there's involvement of everybody, and the youth also need to be involved in that? And before also giving the policy development funds, why don't we first skill the youth in terms of financial literacy? That is still a skill that if at all the youth have it, then at the end of the day they would also have maybe the better part of their lives also in there, because if at all we are not talking about that, then definitely that would be quite bad. And that is where we need to see the president also calling upon the youth also to have the skills also be developed in there, because if at all we not also have the skills development, then definitely that is also going to be very much bad. And remember, entrepreneurship skills is actually good, and today the Ministry of Gender and Labour Social Development is actually running what we call the GROW project, which targets women entrepreneurs, and many of them are actually youths. And we are saying the youths who qualify for these funds must apply for these monies and also beef up their businesses. That would also make sure they earn a lot of money for themselves, because Ministry of Gender and Social Development is actually implementing that project also funded by World Bank, that would also offer support to these women in there. Now that's something also which we feel the populace also need to learn from, and at the end of the day that would be quite good to also make sure that they uplift their status of poverty and also move out of the bar line where they have been also pinned, and that would also make sure the youth who are complaining of poverty today also have something that they can't be able to do. And that is one thing also where I feel at the end of the day, yesterday those who had the messages of also what we call the World Youth Day celebrations, definitely the messages of socio-economic transformation must not be taken lightly, and that is where if at all they have now the knowledge, then they let them come back and practice on this good knowledge in there. And with this President 7 advising the school-going children to work with their parents during holidays to stabilize their homesteads income in there. And that is where also I want to say it is quite true. Family members need to work shoulder by shoulder. They need to work with also the young generation, and elders who are into business need to also bring their young ones on board, so that so they get the necessary skills, and that would also make sure their businesses prosper in there. And that's one thing I love about Indians. Indians also today, you find that they are learners, are actually understanding their business, and something which is totally different from our people who all want to have their business soul-centered. And once these people die, the business also follow them, because the people have not been skilled enough and mentorship has not been enough. That is how the business slowly at the end of the day die in there. And that's where we're going to leave that discussion aside, and I hope also you as the viewer also has a wonderful time in there. And that's where we're going to leave that discussion. Remember, before we move on that, and we still have lots more happening also really in the world of sports. And Kitara Football Club is in Egypt, and yesterday I was able to see also really some of the players in Egypt who are that side also really joining the counterparts from Uganda, and I was able to also really see players also really like also really Nyakojo also meeting also really players also really like Ojara, and that is how the union also should be kept. And because anytime we may also see many players crossing to that side also really of the region in there, that's also really in the Gulf region, and where we see Egypt. And I really want to say we need to also really make sure these issues going to happen, and that is where also I feel at the end of the day it will be quite good, because as we are just left with about is to begin the official season. That's the new season, that's for the English Premier League and also Uganda Premier League as well, and where we are part also the proud sponsors and also the partners. I really feel we need to also now start checking what is happening out in there. And as we move on, remember internationally, Donald Trump is back on X also after months of failing also out with Marlon S in 2023, and late also creating his own social media tool. That is something we are seeing also now, and I believe that is quite good, because Donald Trump was not on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, and now he is back after falling out with also really the owner of also Twitter in that's Elon Musk. And we are going to leave that discussion aside, and we hope also more details also to that also will be coming in our subsequent news programs also of Nilecast, Lembangea, and Eolaza, where also the team will be giving you that. And now up next is the News Bulletin Global with Fete Manuel, and that brings us to the end of today's program. I hope you had a wonderful time right from the time it began until this hour of the morning. I want to say thank you so much whoever watched us, and we now want to pave way for the Eola's news team. Mapadwa Sani, Amanabe Dika Savler Sidney.